Live and direct.
We are live on all of the platforms. Get my announcements out.
All out into the interwebs. Announce in the LeoFinance Discord. If you're not in the LeoFinance Discord, what are you doing?
Okay, we got to unmute in the Discord.
Yep.
So today is July 19th, 2022. Bitcoin just hit 23K.
Indeed. And we shall touch on that at some point in today's LeoFinance AMA / When Soon show.
Yeah, we'll touch on it soon.
We got oxnifty.nft in the audience. I like the,
changes his name
change.
More than Bitcoin changes its direction.
Exactly. There you go. Loading up the chat with the wins.
Like that. All right.
2024. For Bitcoin, the win is 2024. Although it might be sooner because we'll see what the Fed does in September. I'm still sticking with my theory.
September walking back.
Yeah, especially because I think the inflation numbers might get better. Gas prices dropped this month.
That's true.
But anyway,
dropped.
That's we'll get into
we'll
that
get there. Yeah, let's jump into the developments and the Leoverse, the whens and the soons. So I'm actually drafting a post. It'll probably go up after this AMA about, it like this week in Leo. I've been wanting to do that every week, but obviously things get crazy, and then when and soon becomes later, and then it becomes never. So basically this week in Leo, I've got this post, and we'll just kind of run through it quickly. But if you want the full post, then look at the @LeoFinance account in a few hours, and you'll probably see it there. But essentially, some major things have happened in the Leoverse over the past week. So the first thing that we want to kind of cover is PolyCUB v2. So PolyCUB v2, basically like the culmination of essentially 3 months of development, which is the core features of Vex PolyCUB, the governance UI, PolyCUB improvement proposal system, the multi-token bridge, and then of course with all of that comes the buybacks for PolyCUB. So all of these features are all aimed at kind of building that sustainable future that we've kind of envisioned for PolyCUB since the beginning. So the entire mission statement of PolyCUB is to build sustainable, reliable, and growing yield. So when it comes to PolyCUB or CUB, for our Web3 community, that's the mission. That's our ambition is to build this platform where you can buy PolyCUB and you can stake it, and you can earn a reliable yield that grows over time, and the platform itself accrues value over time and continues to grow. And you kind of next year or 5 years from now that token and that platform are worth more than they were previously. So that's where everything's headed. And we really changed the direction a lot when PHBD launched, because we were very pleasantly surprised by how much value accrual PHBD had. It was actually, really crazy to see in the first week how much PHBD managed to make for the protocol. So after that, we basically went back to the drawing board and said, we can scale this out and make this kind of the core of the platform. And with all of that came kind of this interesting chart, which I'll drop in the Discord right now. And it doesn't look that good in Discord, but that's all right. This kind of value flow model, which you can see now with Vex PolyCUB being live. Obviously, people can stake X PolyCUB into Vex PolyCUB, and that essentially locks it up for 2 years. With that staking comes the ability basically to get this fixed 20% APY. And it also brings about 3 times governance power. So with the governance, and this is why we kind of packaged all of this stuff together and released it all at once instead of kind of rolling it out over time. But with that comes the governance UI, which obviously lets you vote on the yield governance every week, and then also in the PolyCUB improvement proposal system. This 20% fixed APY is kind of this interesting mechanic. If you look at platforms like Anchor, Terra, and then you look at like HBD on the Hive blockchain, these platforms grew, especially like if you look at, UST, they grew initially because of that 20% fixed APY. And, that's what attracted a lot of people to those platforms. Obviously with UST and Terra, it didn't work out well for them for other reasons. But a lot of people have asked, is that 20% sustainable, and how, basically how does that impact the platform going forward? And if you pay 20% APY, is that scalable? Because if everyone starts to stake and get that 20% APY, obviously, that's a super attractive yield. So everyone wants it. If everyone starts to stake and the capital in there keeps growing, how does the platform pay for that? And the problem with most platforms is that they pay for that through inflation. So as more capital gets staked, the token gets infinitely more inflated because they have to pay that 20% fixed APR or APY. And the way that PolyCUB works with Vex PolyCUB is a lot different. So, if you look through the comments on that post, I jumped in a few places. But essentially that 20% fixed APY comes from the value accrual of the multi-token bridge and the protocol and liquidity. So right now there's about $400,000 staked in Vex PolyCUB, which is extremely good. So that means that about $6,800 or so needs to be purchased every single month in terms of PolyCUB, and then deposited into the Vex PolyCUB contract. So basically that 20% fixed APY doesn't come from inflation, it comes from buybacks. So whereas other platforms, they have to infinitely inflate their token in order to pay that 20%, we actually have to increase the buybacks of PolyCUB in order to pay that 20%. So the more capital that gets pooled in Vex PolyCUB, actually the more bullish it is for PolyCUB, because then you've got that permanent buyer that has to keep buying more and more. One of the interesting things about that too is that when it deposits that 20% yield, it's actually putting it into the Vex PolyCUB contract so that when users withdraw, they actually get their yield. So essentially what it's doing is buying back PolyCUB every single month and then locking it up for 2 years, because it's just depositing it in the time lock contract. So it's actually removing PolyCUB from the supply every single month. So if the price of PolyCUB is going down, it's buying back more PolyCUB in terms of, per share units, and then it's locking it up. So, it kind of creates this like self-balancing mechanism where if the PolyCUB price is going up, it's buying back PolyCUB, but it's getting less per share of PolyCUB. And then if the PolyCUB price goes down, it's getting more per share and it's locking up more. So when the price is going up, it's locking up less PolyCUB. When the price is going down, it's locking up more PolyCUB, and it kind of creates this nice equilibrium system. So I'm kind of excited to see that start to play out with the first monthly buyback. Just to kind of answer one question I saw, does the buyback program buy all the PolyCUB it needs from the market, or does it slowly buy every 30 days? So it buys back with it's all autonomous, and it buys back in random intervals throughout the month. So it's buying back in small chunks, and it's doing it in random intervals so that nobody can front run it. And so it's basically like this randomizer function. And it's really interesting how that works. But with the current amount of PolyCUB locked in the Vex PolyCUB contract, it's going to be buying back about $6,800 worth of PolyCUB, which is pretty significant amount compared to the market cap and the size of PolyCUB as an ecosystem. So with $400,000 locked in Vex PolyCUB, the total market cap of PolyCUB is about 1.1 million. So I mean, almost 40% of the platform is locked as Vex PolyCUB, which is pretty crazy. And a few people have asked, what if the protocol can't cover that amount? And if you look at the numbers, and this will come out in the first PolyCUB monthly, buyback report, but if you look at the numbers behind like PHBD, PHive, PLEO, PSPS, so basically the entire multi-token bridge, it's generating so much value every month. It's really crazy. So up until this point, we've been letting that protocol own liquidity, compound itself, and grow. And now with the monthly buybacks, we're taking a percentage of that, and that's where that yield comes from. So that permanent buying system is going to be really interesting to watch play out. And I'm just excited to see, the sustainability of PolyCUB as a platform as those buybacks start. And then also when you start to see, more capital flow into PHBD and PHive and how that all plays out. It really flips a lot of these DeFi platforms. So, if you go back to the history of like when we launched CUB, it was this crazy mania of, Pancake Swap, Pancake Bunny and what is the Goose DeFi was like the big one. All these different platforms came out, and 99% of them have already failed. The 1% that remain are the ones who found a way to differentiate themselves, and they found some sort of way to actually have some sort of value accrual built into the platform. We have a very interesting opportunity here because of PHive, PHBD, PLEO, PSPS. We have this very interesting opportunity to actually turn it into like a real DeFi platform with, real value accrual. And it all stems from having an actual utility. So, with the multi-token bridge and Vex PolyCUB and governance, we actually have real utility for PolyCUB, which is what I think differentiates it from all these other DeFi platforms that really don't have much going for them other than, paying yield through inflation. So, watching this all play out on PolyCUB is probably one of the most interesting experiments we've done up to this point. So, having the amount staked in Vex PolyCUB has surpassed what I expected it to, but that's ultimately that makes me even more bullish, because that just means the protocol needs to buy more PolyCUB every month. So we'll see how that plays out. All of this stuff, and I know Mitch and a lot of other people are wondering when CUB, and the answer is soon. But all of this stuff that's being deployed on PolyCUB is going to be deployed over to CUB, and it's going to be cool to watch them function side by side. What I'm interested to see is that with PolyCUB, we have the Vex PolyCUB contract, and the yield that's earned, the yield and the value accrual that's earned from the multi-token bridge and protocol and liquidity is basically buying back PolyCUB and distributing it to Vex PolyCUB holders. When all this stuff is released on CUB, it's actually going to buy CUB and burn it, because CUB has always been built on that buy and burn model. Whereas PolyCUB is kind of that buy and redistribute model, which is it's going to be cool to see those functions side by side, and almost like a little friendly competition to see which one actually performs better. Is it better to redistribute value accrual, or is it better to buy back and burn with value accrual? So, it's very bullish for CUB to see all this stuff play out on PolyCUB. And obviously since the release, I think, PolyCUB has performed pretty well, especially in terms of, how much value is getting locked up. So that's kind of everything on the DeFi side. It's been a lot of work to get us to this point and release all these different contracts for governance and
what
Vex PolyCUB.
How much or what percentage did you say got locked up in Vex PolyCUB already?
So right now there is 96,000 X PolyCUB locked up in Vex PolyCUB,
Nice.
which is pretty close to 50%. It's like 47% or something of all X PolyCUB. So that's roughly 2.5 million PolyCUB that's been locked up. And the amount of PolyCUB circulating is only 6.7 million. So it's a pretty radical percentage of PolyCUB that's been removed from the circulating supply. And then, this PolyCUB improvement proposal system, this is going to be kind of one of the interesting ways that PolyCUB moves forward, is that every major change and decision is governed by this improvement proposal system. So the first one with the UI is PIP2. Obviously, the first one we did without a UI, which was to reduce the harvesting window from 90 days to 30 days. PIP2 is to increase the multi-token bridge wrapping fee. So right now the wrapping fee is 0.25%, and this proposal offers the ability to either keep it at 0.25% or increase it to 0.35 or 0.5. So if you are an ex-PolyCUB or VEX PolyCUB holder, make sure you vote on that, whichever you think is better. But definitely keep in mind that the multi-token bridge earning from wrapping fees is one of the largest sources of revenue for PolyCUB as a protocol. So this is going to be really interesting. If the wrapping fees increase, will we see kind of this big increase in revenue, which ultimately is used to buy back PolyCUB and deposit to VEX PolyCUB holders. So I'm watching that with a close eye. It's going to be the voting ends July 22nd, which is in 3 days. So make sure you get your voting in for that. And then the first yield governance vote also ends on July 22nd. It's every Friday. So and once you vote, I guess is a good PSA. So in the last AMA, we did talk about yield governance, and everyone said, well, mostly everyone said they wanted it to just roll over and keep all the governance votes. We ended up just resetting the DAO because there's a couple reasons why, but we ended up resetting all the votes in the DAO. So if you voted previously, like before the UI went live for governance, for yield governance, make sure you revote using the UI, because your votes won't carry over from before. But then once you vote now with the UI, your vote will stay in place going forward. So you don't have to vote every week unless you want to change your votes. And then the snapshot is taken every Friday.
It's every Friday. All right. Yeah, I jumped on the new UI, which is super convenient. In fact, after I staked VEX Poly, I jumped on the UI, and then, basically put my votes in. I don't know if it was the same ones or not. I don't remember what I previously had, but it's a good thing you also mentioned about the wrapping fee thing, because honestly, I didn't even scroll down that far, because, you see the list of the pairs, the forming pairs, and kind of just stop there and hit your vote buttons. So as far as the governance is, basically you put your vote in, and at that point, you kind of just need to remember what you voted. It doesn't tell you, and then any vote you put in, until you change it, it remains.
Right. Yep. Until you change around your votes, it's just the same. Yep. Yeah. It just snapshots you again every Friday.
And it's good that you mentioned that, because even in the post, I mentioned that we should probably make a separate announcement that you have to recast votes. So that's good that you mentioned it, and also that you brought up the wrapping fee. I'll have to ponder that one for a hot second before I vote. And then say again the benefits in terms of an increased wrapping fee or not.
Oh, for increase. Yeah. So, the multi-token bridge wrapping service is essentially, one of the largest sources of value accrual for the protocol. So, all that value that gets accrued is that's where the money comes from, basically, to pay VEX PolyCUB holders that fixed 20% APY. So basically the multi-token bridge is earning revenue. It's taking that revenue, it's buying back PolyCUB every single month, and then depositing it into the VEX PolyCUB contract as that 20% yield. And you can follow that flow chart. I think it's pretty easy to follow, and a good way to visualize how value flows into the platform and where that value goes. A percentage of it goes to pay that 20% fixed APY, and whatever's remaining over that just gets compounded into protocol and liquidity. So, with that first PolyCUB monthly report, I think people will get a very good glimpse into, protocol and liquidity, and exactly how much value is being accrued through the multi-token bridge. I think raising the wrapping fee is a good idea, though, just to bolster that revenue even more. And with the PolyCUB improvement proposal system, I think, we've got PIP2 live. I think PIP3 is probably going to be live, pretty shortly after, sometime next week. And then obviously PIP4, PIP5. We have a bunch of proposals that are already lined up to go live. So it's pretty important that, if you haven't participated in governance, make sure that you do, because before the UI, I think we only had about 25% participation from ex-PolyCUB holders. So with the UI live, I think that's going to be a lot higher. So I actually wanted to ask you what your take is on the UI. Do you like it? Is it easy to use? Because we talked about it on a few AMAs, and Neil mentioned a few times, make a UI that's super easy to use if you want high levels of governance participation.
Neil's not here, so what he says doesn't matter.
True.
No. Yeah, having the UIs makes things 10 times easier because, and also everyone's different. Like me, I'm definitely more of a visual person. So like having that UI is 10 times better for me personally. And it's easy too. It's like everything's in one place. I can kind of scan through it all on one screen, make my decisions based on the information. It's as easy as clicking a button and then hitting and approving the transaction. So to me, I think ease of use is very important. And then also just being able to visually have everything in one place where I can make an informed decision. And then it's awesome too, because now when there's other votes like this, wrapping fee thing, it's like all in one place. So definitely a value add in my opinion. Yeah. And ideally brings up participation, which again, public service announcement, go back and vote because your votes from back in the day are no longer there. So vote early, vote often. Just like you do with your pooling.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, no, it's good. I'm plugging that in. I'm trying to do the multitask of host and write recap at the same time.
Yeah. So that's a lot of the DeFi stuff. Keep an eye out for that monthly report. That's going to be kind of the big insight that I think everyone's been waiting for protocol and liquidity and bridge revenue and how everything's going there. Also make sure you get a bunch of HBD and Hive ready because we may have a CUB update sooner than you think. Then moving on to
don't tease me.
UI. Moving on to the Leo UI. We've got
hold on real quick before you get into the LeoFinance stuff. You mentioned the monthly report. Real quick recap. What's that's going to cover? It's going to cover like the buybacks and things like that. What was
that monthly report will cover the protocol. It's basically a report from the PolyCUB DAO of how much revenue it's earned, the size of the protocol and liquidity, the buybacks for Vex PolyCUB, with like TX links so everyone can follow exactly how that's working. I mean, like literally everything when it comes to the financial side of what's going on with the PolyCUB DAO, kind of behind the scenes. And I think a lot of people have been waiting to hear about the protocol and liquidity and how it's been functioning. So we'll see how that plays out. I think people are going to be blown away by how much revenue the protocol generates. Because I saw a lot of comments, talking about scalability for the Vex PolyCUB contract and, if the protocol would be able to cover it and how all that would work. So I think when people see that report, it's going to be very enlightening, which is crazy. Awesome. But I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
Perfect.
So LeoThreads, we've talked about it a few times. Essentially, and I posted a little teaser on Twitter. LeoThreads is basically proxy Project Blank. It's kind of like our critical step towards releasing Project Blank. And that is to test a lot of our infrastructure and it's really important on the way to building Project Blank that we basically built all this different technology like Leo Infra and Lightning with the idea that one day it all seeds us into building Project Blank. And LeoThreads is basically crypto Twitter on LeoFinance. So, I would say within the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to go to the LeoFinance UI. You'll be able to create a tweet or a thread. We're calling them threads. So you'll be able to create a 240 character tweet on LeoFinance talking about whatever you want to talk about. You can link to another article. You can put an image on there. You can, put your Bitcoin price prediction for the week on there. And this is this is extremely exciting. It is the first real iteration of, microblogging on the Hive blockchain. And I think it's really the first usable, functional microblogging on any blockchain. Because people have created stuff on like Polygon and like Neil said, you can't build platforms like social platforms and have transaction fees. It's never going to work. So
Who's this Neil guy you keep referring to?
I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while. I'm starting to forget. Yeah, I mean, it really is. And there are a platform, there's this one platform on Hive called Dbuzz, and I really like what they're doing. But I do,
I remember
I do find,
Dbuzz.
yeah, I do think that they have one issue, which is that this kind of, and it's not their issue, it's an issue on Hive, which is that you can't create really more than 3 top level blog posts per day on Hive, or people will come after you. And that really sucks, but that's just kind of like this Hive incubator ecosystem thing that nobody really likes, but it's a part of the system. And there's pros and cons to it. I mean, if you have people spamming the blockchain, that's not good. So that's why it exists, but that's why that social norm exists, but it's also why it has a big limitation on anything that does top level posting. So LeoThreads will not be top level posts. We're actually testing one of the systems that we have in mind for Project Blank. It's important that we test the scalability of it, because if it doesn't work, then essentially we're going to be working on the more complicated version for Project Blank, which is just going to take us a lot more development time, but it's still, either way, Project Blank is obviously coming. So it's more, do we use this system or do we use the other system that's a little bit more complicated, but will have a lot more scalability. I personally think that the LeoThreads system will scale even for Project Blank. But like I said, I mean, until it's in a real environment and we can have live beta testing, we won't really know. So that's why LeoThreads is coming. And I think it will be a game changer when it comes to LeoFinance and using LeoFinance. It's if there's anyone here, and I know that there's definitely people out there in the crypto space that don't want to write 1,000 word blog posts. They also don't want to read 1,000 word blog posts. They want to scroll through something like Twitter and read a max of 240 characters, and they want to be able to quickly reply and read the next one. They want to be able to share images and share links and not worry about upvotes, not worry about downvotes, not worry about posting too much. All of this stuff is solved through LeoThreads. It literally creates, you might as well create a whole new UI. I mean, it literally creates an entirely new use case for Leo, the Leo token and the LeoFinance economy. I'm actually curious to see how much of the rewards pool starts to flow into threads versus posts, and kind of see how that starts to play out. It's going to be, obviously it's all the same rewards pool because you're upvoting comments and posts. So it's just that comments will start to earn more Leo. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool. I accidentally hit the mute button.
I kind of for a hot second.
Cool. I kind of wonder, how this starts to play out in terms of the comments versus posts. And if you watch the weekly Leo stats posts, it talks about how many comments were made on LeoFinance and how many posts were made. I'm very curious to see the spike that we see in the number of comments made on LeoFinance. I think it's going to be huge.
It should jump exponentially.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to see it live, see it in action, and then you can make your judgment on it. But one thing I saw someone comment after I released like the teaser on Twitter of LeoThreads is that LeoFinance, if you look at the Leo token, it's like $850,000 market cap token. So we are under $1 million market cap, and we are essentially releasing a Twitter platform. Obviously Project Blank aside, but we're releasing a Twitter feature on LeoFinance in conjunction with all the stuff that already exists on LeoFinance and the LeoMobile app. And this person was basically saying it's crazy that a project that's not even $1 million market cap is doing all this stuff. So I guess it it just goes to show, if you believe in kind of this vision and what we're trying to achieve, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, it's, buying Leo under $1 million market cap just seems like insane to me. I can't believe how low it's gotten, but at the same time, I think it's an incredible opportunity. I think at our peak,
baby.
Yeah, bear market. I think at our peak, Leo hit like $1 and the market cap was around 12 million. So, we are, 1/12 of our peak. And obviously, a lot of that has to do with the bear market. But yeah, I'm watching with a close eye what happens after LeoThreads gets released and the engagement and monthly active users. It'll be cool to watch it. And kind of coinciding with that is the Leo community pages. So in case you missed it, over the last week, we released like 15 new community pages. And all of these community pages are governed or at least moderated by one of the Leo ambassadors. So there's like a different Leo ambassador through that Leo ambassador program that are in charge of these pages and in charge of creating content for them, curating content for them, and then also marketing the pages out there on, on Reddit, on Twitter, all sorts of places. So, a lot of people have asked what the marketing, plan is for community pages. And I think a lot of it is kind of guerrilla marketing. Like what we need our community to create content for each of these pages and fill them up so that people who are interested in this stuff actually have a place to come and see content about it. For example, like the Thorchain page, you want people from, Thorchain, the Thorchain ecosystem to see this Thorchain page and see, all these people creating content about Thorchain and talking about the things that they're interested in. And then they can join LeoFinance and start talking about Thorchain as well. And you kind of create that snowball effect. So community pages is really like a guerrilla marketing setup where it creates this cordon off parts of LeoFinance, and people get to use the UI in the way that they want to use the UI, which is, not everyone wants to scroll through a bunch of content about all sorts of random topics. They just want to go where they want to go. They want to see exactly what their incubation wants them to see. So it's like it's kind of creating that environment like other social media platforms where when you scroll your feed, you're seeing only what you're interested in, which, some people argue that that's a bad thing as a human, but in terms of social media platform, it's a great thing. So the Leo community pages combined with LeoThreads is a game changer for our UI. And that pretty much covers all my updates. I feel like I've been rambling about the updates, but we've been working on a lot of stuff the past week, and it's been great.
Tons of good stuff. I literally forgot about LeoFinance communities because that's how much other crap has launched since that launched, which is crazy because communities just launched.
Yeah.
You got a lot. Dev team been working hard.
Very hard. Yeah. And we've onboarded a lot of devs over the past couple of weeks. So bear market has been good to us so far. So I see my free BTC saying, and Morty said the same thing. Yeah, so the UI has like one or two places where it says APR instead of APY. So we're gonna fix that. It's not actually that misleading. I mean, it changes it by maybe 1% or something, but if it's APR
in regards to Vex Poly.
Yeah, so it's just that the dev who was doing it, yeah, it's like a 1.6% difference. The dev who was building it put APR instead of APY. So yeah, we'll get that fixed. But
yeah, no worries. I mean, I think it's common knowledge at this point, but some people were still asking. I remember like the other day about the 20% Vex. But that 20% is on top of whatever you earned from X Poly as well.
Yeah, that was a good question. So who is that? Morty said, do X PolyCUB still earn their yield while being locked as Vex PolyCUB, or is it either or? So that's a good question. A lot of people have asked that. So if you go to the UI, it actually shows you the APY for Vex PolyCUB. Right now it's showing 85.59%. So that number is literally just the APY for X PolyCUB, and then it adds 20%, which is the APY for Vex PolyCUB. So your X PolyCUB still earns the X PolyCUB yield on top of that 20%. So that's the cool thing about Vex PolyCUB is you're earning the stacked yield. Obviously, X PolyCUB is earning yield from inflation, and that inflation keeps dropping. So the X PolyCUB yield will drop over time, and right now it's super high, but it won't be that high forever. But the Vex PolyCUB yield will always be 20%, that fixed 20% yield plus whatever X PolyCUB is getting. And X PolyCUB earns its yield from early harvesting penalties. So if anyone claims their yield without waiting the 30-day unlock period, then they pay 50% of that yield to all the X PolyCUB holders. So whether you're in X PolyCUB or Vex PolyCUB, you get that yield. That's kind of the cool thing about Vex PolyCUB, since Vex PolyCUB is basically, it stands for voting escrowed X PolyCUB. So you're still an X PolyCUB holder. You're just locking that X PolyCUB up for 2 years. That's basically how it works. And my free BTC just said 18-cent PolyCUB. So looks like we just hit
Rock and roll.
cents. Yeah,
one 18-cent cub.
probably soon.
Apparently some of the community pages are misbehaving. I actually just tried Phantom
I think
as
a
well,
few
and I
of
got the
them
same
need,
error.
Yeah, I think a few of them need some content. So we got to start filling those up.
Nice. Where's our Phantom nerds? Write some Phantom posts.
Yeah, write
Whoever's
some
running that
Phantom.
community, make sure you vote that post so it hits the community.
Yeah, if you're a content creator, there's a big benefit if you can create content for any of these community pages and help fill them up. If you want Leo
Well,
to
and
be
it's
successful,
an opportunity.
It's a great opportunity.
Because if there's a community that's not really having much content come in, you can become the authority in that community. So therefore, you're generally going to be the one that is getting voted up. You can eventually become the quote unquote whale in that community, or at least get the whale votes. So anyone who's constantly creating content and frustrated that they don't have any big votes or a lot of votes, this is an organic way to work towards that. Will it happen overnight? No, but once that community is bustling, you'll be the authority. So your post will be getting the attention. And that's how that works.
Yes, solely me gaming. I don't know how to say that name. How do I post directly to a community page on LeoFinance? I tried with Splinterlands today and it did not work. So the way community pages work is you post with the hashtag for that page, which, if it's Splinterlands, the hashtag is Splinterlands. You put it in your tags when you publish your content. To show up on that page, you actually have to be curated by one of the community moderators for that page. So just because you make a post and tag it with Splinterlands doesn't mean your post gets put to the community page. You basically have a shot to be put to the community page. It's up to the moderators to basically upvote your post and get you into that page. The larger their upvote is, the higher you rank on that community page. So if they upvote you at 100%, you'll show up right at the top of that community page. So that's how community pages work, a lot like subreddits. Anyone can technically post on LeoFinance, but it's up to the moderators to approve what shows and what doesn't show on a community page.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you tag your post with whatever community you're aiming to get some love.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what Nifty just said?
Yeah. So if a moderator sees a great post that would fit well into one of the communities like Ethereum, but the post is not tagged Ethereum, we should be able to issue a command to add it to the community page. Yeah, that's a good idea. There's on the roadmap, there's an idea to add the ability to pin posts. So maybe when we release the pinning feature, we can do something like that too, where perhaps something like the moderator could insert a tag into each post. Just on our UI, obviously we can't modify the Hive blockchain, but we might be able to second layer put a tag in it. So yeah, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, definitely creates more opportunity.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to our team dashboard just so we know when we revisit.
Gives the community moderators some power to add good content that otherwise wouldn't get added.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, man. Big week of developments. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff popped off. A lot of whens became nows.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we've been working on the, we were working on that PolyCUB update for a long time, a couple months, and it turned out really well. I'm really happy with how that update turned out. And obviously, I think in terms of, price action and other things, it's going to take some time for that to play out, probably when the first monthly report comes out. But in terms of, fundamentals for PolyCUB, it's become a lot stronger. I mean, with 2.5 million PolyCUB locked up and not liquid anymore, I think that's going to have a positive impact on the price over time.
Yep. I didn't overthink it. I just said, screw it. I'll lock up half my X poly and then I'll think more about it after that. So, and I jumped in minutes after the announcement. But yeah, bye for 2 years.
But 2 years, you're getting that 20% fixed yield, and
Oh yeah.
that's like the vision, right? Like if we can always manage to pay a 20% yield on PolyCUB that's bought and staked and locked up, I think that's really cool, because you can basically take a percentage of your capital in your portfolio and start slowly legging into PolyCUB, and then lock it up and get that 20% reliable yield. That's the vision. So
Absolutely.
Nifty Phil asked, will Vex PolyCUB be used for collateralized loans as well, or just X PolyCUB? Yeah, that's a good question. I saw that in a comment somewhere too. It will be used for collateralized loans, so you'll be able to use either X PolyCUB or Vex PolyCUB as collateral to take out a loan from the protocol and liquidity. So, and that is, if you look at the way the ecosystem works, that's another way that the protocol earns revenue and buys back PolyCUB for the Vex PolyCUB APY. So it's a very circular closed loop, where that works, where that revenue comes in and then buys back PolyCUB and uses it for that 20% yield. What's also interesting is with Vex PolyCUB, since you're locking it up for 2 years, if you can take out a collateralized loan against it, I think it'll add a lot of utility for PolyCUB holders, because you're, like you said, like you just said, bye for 2 years. It's really like you can lock up your PolyCUB for 2 years, but then you can, if you need liquidity, you can get instant liquidity by taking that collateralized loan against your Vex PolyCUB. And now you've got the benefit of having stake for 2 years that's earning 20% APY, but then also having a collateralized loan that gives you instant liquidity. Like, let's say that you want to use that liquidity to buy Bitcoin or do a real estate deal or something like that. You can basically lock up your Vex PolyCUB and then take out a loan against it. Mr. Tats is asking when loans, and Addicted basically asked the same thing. Addicted thinks that PolyCUB will become 20, 30, $40 million market cap when we launch loans, because it adds that much utility to the platform. So yeah, loans will come soon. That's kind of the PolyCUB V3 update is the collateralized lending protocol, coinciding with some interesting features. So yeah, that's all in this universe. PolyCUB V2 was very focused around governance. If you look at the update for PolyCUB V2, it was essentially all the updates were focused on the PolyCUB DAO. Which is, Vex PolyCUB, governance UI, PolyCUB improvement proposal system, multi-token bridge, all that stuff wrapped up into the V2 release. So V3 will be the lending protocol and synthetics.
Good stuff.
I think people underestimate what can be done by such a small project. Like it's, you know, like PolyCUB is a $1.1 million market cap project. Leo's, you know, 850K market cap. You know, CUB is like 400K now, which is crazy. But you know, the size of our team is very disproportionate to those market caps, because I think we kind of got beaten and battered in this bear market more than most projects. Yeah, I mean, I think considering that as a whole Leoverse ecosystem, we're just a few $1 million market cap, you know, actually like under 2 million essentially. It's people underestimate that we can do things like synthetics, collateralized loans, and like this last release with Vex PolyCUB, and you know, we created a functional DAO, which there are DeFi platforms out there with, you know, $250 million in TVL, who all have promised their community to release a DAO, and they still haven't delivered a DAO after 2 years. So I think we are underestimated in the marketplace in terms of what we can accomplish. So that's one thing that is pretty cool about LeoFinance as an ecosystem, is that, you know, if you look at projects like a ship on water, LeoFinance is a very tiny ship, and other people have very large ships. We can maneuver a lot faster than them. We can release things a lot faster than them. Essentially, for them to make a quick turn is very difficult, and we can release things like a DAO, you know, in just a few months worth of development time. So I'm very happy with in terms of technology and fundamental progress and onboarding new developers. I've never been more excited for the project. So hopefully people see that hopefully people see that in terms of the release of things like community pages and LeoThreads and PolyCUB v2 and the upcoming release of CUB v2, and you know, I hope people can kind of see that fundamental progress, kind of despite the market caps. You know, despite market caps being so low, we're able to release things that projects that are 100 times our size can't release, which I think is cool.
Well, small and nimble sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Nifty is excited for synthetics. I like how the crowd grows on the AMA as the hour goes on. Y'all came late to the game. You missed all the good updates. Now all you get is my subpar recap post that has about a third of the info that gets covered. 130K BTC. I'll tell you what, Nifty might be right around the corner, but then right back down probably. If we even get to 30K. My first eyeball is like 25, 26.
If you guys want to see a little alpha, we've got a Leo bridge update with the multi-token bridge.
Oh,
yeah, we got a little
on the fly updates.
Yeah, a little UI update is coming. Obviously it's not live yet, but it will be in the Sooniverse. It includes Beehive, BHBD, which is all the CUB v2 stuff getting released. But I think people will like this new UI a lot. You always get the alpha when you're here for the AMAs live. If you're watching the recording, then you should come next Tuesday.
To piggyback on Morty's when CUB DeFi implementation, I'm sure he's excited, just as I am, to see that there's a Beehive and a BHBD in this Leo Bridges UI sneak peek. No, Summertooth just jumped into Vex Poly.
Nice.
We got live staking.
Live staking. Live staking and live releases.
And in the ultimate when attitude, solely asked when CUB v3.
Yep.
Yes, the amount. I also noticed that the amount of decimal numbers.
That was actually a design choice because I like watching it tick down. I don't know if other
yeah,
people
because
like
it'll
that,
tick down pretty consistently. You'll see
right,
change.
ticks down every second. Yeah, which I think is kind of cool. But
infinite precision. That's awesome. Oh, here we go. Marco's got some questions about mobile app. That's good. We should touch on mobile app. We haven't talked about that in a while. I jump on it just to vote. I noticed that when I open it, because I don't open it every day, but even if I do it only once a day, like it takes a hot minute to load. Um, but I'm sure if I was on it regularly, that wouldn't be as much the case.
Yeah, it kind of picks up where you left off. So if you open it every day, it can be pretty quick.
All right. Well, apparently the Vex Poly explanation was very helpful for Summertooth, so that's awesome.
Glad to hear that.
So let's see. Marco was talking about mobile app. Is there an app for Android? Wait, is the app for Android the latest version of it? I believe that's yes, right?
Yep, it is. That's V1 in Android. It's the full App Store V1. They already approved it. For iOS, we're still waiting for V1 approval. It's just in test flight on Apple.
Hashtag Android for the win.
In this case, yes, Android.
Which is that's really a thing between people. And I mean, to use an example, it really comes up a lot in like dating. I'll really have girls ask me if I have an iPhone, and I'm like, Android for life, and they're literally like, "You're dead to me." I was like,
no girl wants to see your green text messages, Mitch.
Nope, they're all about the iPhone.
Yep.
So what else? What's the account that needs authorities for the app to work? I mean, I think that's actually a multi answer there, because it depends on how much authority you want to give, right? So like mine, I just did posting authority, so I can vote and post. I don't do anything else on the app.
Yeah, but yeah, you just need to give posting authority, and when you log in with the mobile app, it automatically does that. So you shouldn't have to grant authority after you've logged in.
Oh, because he said, yeah, is there a reason you create an account on mobile through Twitter? Is there a reason that you can't log in on your PC with that account? That sounds like two separate accounts.
Well, yeah. So what he's asking is with Leo Infra, we actually have to push an update where it merges the databases for Twitter on Leo Desktop and Twitter on LeoMobile. We haven't pushed that update yet because we're waiting for V1 in the iOS App Store. But yeah, Leo Infra, basically, like if you create a Twitter Lite account on LeoMobile, you can't use that Twitter Lite account on Leo Desktop yet. But once V1's live on the iOS App Store, it will merge all three databases, and then you'll be able to use it interchangeably. So if you logged in, so basically if you created a Twitter Lite account on, let's say you created a Twitter Lite account on LeoMobile Android, then you want to log into that same account, that same Hive account on Leo Desktop. You just click Twitter and you log in. Right now you can't do that because the databases aren't interchangeable. But once LeoMobile V1 is live in the iOS App Store, it will merge the databases, and then you can log in from, like, if you create it on LeoMobile Android, then you could log in on Leo Desktop, or you could log in on LeoMobile iOS with the same Twitter account, and it'll log you into the same Hive account. So that's
actually very good information, because obviously people would be super lost. And at the same time, I think those are things that probably you guys want to get submitted into a tech support ticket or a bug report ticket.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm saying like those type of instances and that kind of information you generally want people to submit, right? In terms of like,
yeah. Bug reports are, and I think either he made a bug report or someone else did. I did see a bug report with the same thing. So it might have been him who made a bug report about it. But yeah, that type of stuff, so we love when you do bug reports, because then our whole team sees it, and then we can we basically triage all the reports and then basically organize them to be worked on later.
Yeah. So. And then tech support, if you have a specific issue, like even like what Marco's saying here at the end, I mean, that could be tech support, because he basically said the problem with this is because I don't have the keys for the account created on mobile and can't get them. So I only use it on mobile and hope not to lose it. So how do we solve that problem?
Yeah,
but again, that's a great.
That'll be solved when we merge the. That'll be solved when we merge the database. You'll be able to log in on Leo Desktop then too.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question, and again, I don't know, because I didn't create an account on mobile. I just logged into my existing account. If someone creates a new account on mobile through Twitter, are they able to access or find their keys at any point?
Not on mobile yet.
Gotcha. All right. So there you go.
Yeah, that's going to be in
So, but
V2.
when the merge happens, like for instance, just use Marco as an example, when the merge happens, he'll be able to access that.
Yeah. Well, when the merge happens, he'll be able to log in to
The
Leo
desktop
desktop using Twitter with the same
and
Hive
get the
account.
keys.
Right. But yeah, not until the merge happens. But also on LeoMobile, you can't down. So like, let's say that you only use LeoMobile, you don't use Leo desktop. You can't download your keys yet if you create a light account, because you got to remember, like, we're talking about the Hive light account system that we created. So this is essentially like a custody account type of system that we created.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Right. And the LeoMobile wallet UI is not done. So we, for V1, it's kind of like the MVP product of LeoMobile. So we just did the core features like, upvoting, posting, commenting, feeds, the search function, just the core features we saw, notifications, core features we saw as necessary for V1. V2 is going to have a lot of that more deep utility feature, like the LeoMobile wallet UI. And with the wallet UI, that's where you can download your keys. So if you go to Leo desktop, you can download your keys on the wallet UI. That doesn't exist on LeoMobile yet because we haven't done the wallet for it yet. So the wallet UI is in V2.
So yeah, but as far as like Marco's issues, as soon as the merge happens, he can just go to the desktop and be able to access and coordinate everything he needs. So it sounds like you will be good to go, sir. It's just a matter of when in the Sooniverse. So soon day, sir. Hey, you know what? I should actually glance over. I have it open. I should glance over at YouTube and see if anyone's in that chat. And actually, there's some. What do we got? I'm not sure. So Jeremy and YouTube said it would be nice if the UI showed your current active votes. Right now, you don't get any indication that you actually voted besides seeing the blockchain transaction going through. I think I know what he's saying, even though like technically it does do that, but sometimes, yeah, it doesn't. I don't know if he means like in terms of like, it's showing that you voted that post, how like the arrows lit up, because that'll happen sometimes where it doesn't show, but that's not that's not standard. That just basically is whatever, just an issue that pops up sometimes. But
yeah, the
generally mine show
glows. Yeah, it glows after you upvote. So
So on occasion it doesn't. I have things I voted on where it's not lit up, and I'm like, what the hell? But then when you go to try and vote on it, it'll be able to give you the error message that you already cast that same vote.
Right. Yeah, like I just voted on a post just to see, but it turns orange. That's what it should do. But if it doesn't, and then so actually, I think I know. So sometimes if you upvote and then you refresh the page really quickly, the UI hasn't updated to show that you upvoted that already. But if you wait like 30 seconds and then refresh again, it'll show you that you upvoted. But if you don't refresh at all and you just keep upvoting, it'll always light up. So I've never seen it not light up if you don't refresh. Yeah, the Marco, it's the @LeoFinance account. So me said, would be cool to see governance vote standings so you can see how many X PolyCUB you need to throw over the current vote. Yeah, we're gonna add like this chart that shows it's kind of like a pie chart that shows the governance vote standings. We haven't added that yet.
Yeah, definitely be cool to see. Obviously could impact people's decision making.
Yep.
But yeah, man. So
a lot of good
crypto
questions
market
today.
in general.
Yeah, let's jump into crypto. So Bitcoin, while we were getting ready to record, Bitcoin basically jumped up to 23K. What do you think of that? What do you make of it? Basically the last couple of days have been a little bullish. So let's talk about Bitcoin, and then after that we could talk about Ethereum, which has exploded. But what do you make of Bitcoin hitting 23K today?
I mean, honestly, really not much. Yeah, it's a little higher than the tight range it's been stuck in the last 30 days, but it's not really anything noteworthy. I've been kind of saying any bounce, the first upside target for me is like 25, 26. But I mean, we could also obviously always even test the prior support and push up to 29. I personally wouldn't be surprised if we see a bounce up into the high 20s and then it tops out there and we see it dip back down and basically just stays in this range. I could easily see Bitcoin being in like a 18 to like 28K range for a while as things get sorted out in the crypto space, in the economy, in what the Fed's doing. I think we're up for another at least 60 days of kind of a lot of unknowns economically, and even a little bit of crypto. Obviously, there's been more revelations and whatnot. Celsius obviously filed Chapter 11, and who knows what else is lingering out there. But clearly, there's not going to be this V bottom rally that would already pretty much happened.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised to see like how many people have walked back their 10K Bitcoin prediction. It's funny, like so many people were waiting for 10K Bitcoin. No, Bitcoin's going to 8,000. I was just laughing at them. I don't think it's going to get that low. I think 20K is a pretty hard support, but obviously you never know. Like this environment that we're in is kind of unprecedented in terms of the macro environment is really shitty, and then you've got that combined with the crypto market, which is like way over leveraged and cascading failures. So we kind of have to see how this all plays out. What gives me some hope though is that the longer that time goes on, the more secured we get in terms of, in my opinion, in terms of liquidations and cascading failures, because the cascading failures happen all at once. They don't have, they're usually not very dragged out. It's, that those liquidations happen because we see like quick wicks down and then people get liquidated and then it causes those cascading failures. But, you usually don't see those drawn out over time. Like people have had time now to adjust their positions, big funds have had time to add more collateral and be safe. But platforms like Celsius and 3AC and others, when we wick down from, 30K to 18K, they just weren't prepared for that. And obviously they lost a lot of money on Luna and other projects that weren't, properly set up. So, I think, in my opinion, I think the worst is over. Now we're just kind of in this limbo period where we're kind of subject to the macro environment. And, I think correlation to the S&P has reached, all-time highs for Bitcoin. I'm not 100% on that though. I thought I saw it somewhere, but correlation to the S&P is really high right now. S&P is up 2%, Bitcoin's up 3% today. So, just in general, we're kind of tracking the broader markets. So, Ethereum dropped down to what? They wicked down to like 900, but really it kind of based off at 1,000. And the last couple of days it's just been ripping higher. So we're at 1,500 right now. So to anyone who bought the bottom on Ethereum, you made essentially 50 to 70% return in just a few days, or maybe a few weeks. So what do you make of Ethereum? A lot of people are talking about merges and bullishness on the future of Ethereum. That's finally, their soons are finally becoming now. What do you make of that, Mitch?
I mean, that was definitely a big announcement when there was, basically an announcement that had conviction, I think, behind it about a September merge, which personally I don't think is going to happen, but maybe it'll be a couple months after that. So I think that was obviously bullish. Plus the fact that in the end, working off these oversold conditions, right? Everything was so oversold. and not really just, talking about like a daily time frame, like more so even looking at like a monthly or a weekly time frame. Like we especially look at the weekly was telling. Like you look at a weekly chart, nothing really looks bullish. All it looks is like, all right, we're getting a relief bounce, and letting the short term moving averages catch back up, because that's how hard the sell off was. And, you know, we were down, like we had, what was it? Like Ethereum's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There was 11 straight weeks of red candles from Ethereum, right? And then we went sideways for 3 weeks, and now we're getting 2 green candles. So it's not even like anything super exciting's happening. We're just working off being oversold. I mean, RSI is still super low on the weekly chart. So it was bound to happen. It's cool that Ethereum got above 1375, because that was kind of a support resistance level. So in a way, it leveled up, and now it's kind of upside target near like the 1750 area. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm not, in bull mode by any mode yet. I personally think we're going to consolidate for a while, but if we can build a base here, that's awesome. And, maybe quote unquote 20K ends up being, and think about Bitcoin, right? When we were up at 30, everyone was talking about like, oh, 20K, like, the 2018 top, 20K is going to be the bottom. 20K, I'm loading up, and myself included. And we got to 20K, and I did buy, and I bought at 19 and I bought at 18, but did I load up? I did not. I was also waiting for prices to go even lower. I bought a chunk, but I didn't I didn't burn all my fresh powder. I'm keeping some fresh powder. And right now, it's starting to look like 20K is the bottom. We're carving out, we're building a base, or are we just consolidating sideways to like work off, that oversold condition, and then we're going to leg down again? Because if you look at the chart, I mean, we're basically just stair stepping down, right? So if we were flip the Bitcoin chart upside down, we would be like, oh, it's a super bullish. We're about to stair step up again, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know. We consolidated sideways at, 29, 30K for about a month or so before we leg down. So we've been consolidating for about a month now here at 20. The question is there any catalyst out there that can push us down again? I mean, there was multiple catalysts we had in recent months, between the first domino being the Luna debacle, and then followed by 3AC, and then Celsius, and so on and so forth. So if all the big dominoes are out, who knows? Maybe there's not a catalyst, and we end up having 19, 20K as the bottom. But every day that goes by that we stay above 20K is another day, I think, in the books for the bulls in terms of 20K being a bottom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So like right now I'm like 50-50 on whether 20K is the bottom or not. But as every day goes by, I start getting a little more comfortable that it is. So, but I still got fresh powder just in case. You never know.
That's smart. See, I don't think you should ever use all of your fresh powder. You should always have some, right?
Yeah. So
if Bitcoin goes out of 10K, I don't even think you should take all your fresh powder and dump it in. I think you should always keep some on the side. That's just smart investing, I think.
That's how Warren Buffett got rich. Always had cash ready when the fire sales were happening.
Yep. He was sitting on a massive pile of cash, before all of this happened. I remember a lot of people saying, they were buying Berkshire stock, thinking that he was going to start doing dividends because he was just sitting on so much cash. It was ridiculous. So I'm sure he's going to be cleaning house and making a lot of gains in this kind of bear to bull cycle in stocks. Because I mean, I'm sure he's doing some deals right now, just buying things for dirt cheap. And, he could only do that because he stockpiled cash and had a very positive cash flow business, and was smart about, when things were crazy high, taking profits and building up that stack of cash even more, and then legging into things. And that kind of leads us into an interesting conversation with Sam Bankman-Fried, who's
literally
the
just
founder
read
of
my
FTX.
mind. I was like, basically, Sam pulled the Warren Buffett move. He's
Right.
like trying to be the Warren Buffett of crypto.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Freed made his fortune basically on arbitrage and basically he owns what's it called, SBF Alameda Research, where
Oh, I didn't
you know
realize that.
yeah, that's like his original thing, and then he started
Oh, wow.
FTX. Yeah, and then so he basically made his fortune from trading and arbitrage in crypto, and that's a super high cash flow business. Then he took that, built FTX up to what it is now, which is like a behemoth company in the crypto space. And the business is so positive. It has so much cash flow from all this arbitrage and fees for trading, that he built up this massive stack of cash. And now that crypto is tanked and all these companies have started to go under, like BlockFi, he's been buying up all these companies, dirt cheap. He's got some deal to buy BlockFi for like $200 million or something, which is dirt cheap. I don't remember what their last valuation round was, but it was in the billions, I think. And he's going to buy it for a couple $100 million. So it's, he did pull the Warren Buffett in the industry. And I mean, one thing that excites me about watching someone like that is that, the way that PolyCUB is designed now with the multi-token bridge and PHBD and pHive, and the way that CUB is going to get the V2 update, which does the same thing. The way that Sam made his money and made his fortune is exactly how the multi-token bridge works, with the exchange and the arbitrage. So I watch him both because it's awesome to see someone so successful in creating so much capital and positive cash flow, but I also watch it because I think it's cool inspiration for the type of stuff that we're building with CUB and PolyCUB, which are kind of like proxy versions of that. But yeah, I mean, the idea of stockpiling cash for something like this, whether you're a Warren Buffett or a Sam Bankman-Fried, or even like us as retail investors, if you can stockpile cash for something like this, you can just make a killing. The real fortunes are made in the bear markets. They're not made in the bull markets. You take profits in the bull markets. You don't make a fortune in them.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like if we see Bitcoin like rally up to like, let's say like 29, 30K, to that prior support. It's going to be interesting because obviously I think bullish euphoria will start coming in like again, as in like, bear market's already over, blah, 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 blah. Tell you one thing I'm going to do that I did a very poor job about prior this year, which sucks because I was pretty good about hedging last year. But if Bitcoin like happens to rally up to like 28, 29K, I will probably put on a hedge short. So if we end up turning back down to 20K, I can at least offset and or benefit, so to speak, as opposed to having to sell. Because the thing is, like, I don't want to sell any. I didn't like buy enough where I want to sell any. So it's like, well, how can I potentially, benefit from a range bound movements without selling any? And either A, just stake for yield, which I do. I have not half, but close to half of my Bitcoin staked on CUB. And then the other option is, putting on a short hedge. So, but that's where like my opinion is in terms of the crypto market. Like, do I think we can get a bounce that pushes towards prior levels? Yes. Do I think we're going to get follow through? I think the odds are against it, given the economic climate, what the Fed's doing, which, leads to another thing. Me and that guy, Neil, that we used to hang out with, he's been saying it too. We think like maybe September or so, the Fed might start changing its tune. I got gas this morning and I noticed it was like 20 cents lower than when I got gas like a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if gas is just down for the month of July, that alone is going to help CPI, so inflation numbers for July will probably end up not being as robust as these prior months. So literally, if we just get like a July, August relief in prices and it shows the inflation number, goes down a nice little chunk for a couple months, that might be enough room for the Fed to already, start backing off, especially as the midterm elections come up in November. So, a big raise later this month is already baked in. They're probably going to do 75 basis points. And then they don't meet again until September. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. But if they back off and even decide to, QE, I think that is when you'd see the crypto market have an opportunity to take off sooner rather than later.
So if you had to predict, I mean, I know you've already said about September, but let's just say sometime by the end of the year, do you foresee us having QE? Like what odds do you put to that? And for people that might not know, QE is quantitative easing, which is essentially the exact opposite of what they're doing right now, which is quantitative tightening, where they're raising rates and wreaking havoc on the markets, but also with the idea that they can reduce prices on things like gas and groceries because of demand going down. So QE would be the exact opposite, which is what they did in COVID that kind of created this big bubble in crypto and stocks. Yep. So what do you think the odds are of us seeing that type of environment? Maybe not to the same degree, but just even, a slight,
well,
slight
just going from, just backing off the hawkish sentiment, that I think could happen this year. As far as forget QE. Let's take QE to the full extent and talk about money printing. I would not be surprised, and I actually think sometime in 2023 we will see them turn the printer back on. That is my guesstimate. But again, depends on what happens to the economy and everything. If we have recession and blah, 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 blah. But I don't know. As soon as things get bad, that's really their only tool.
Well, and the dollar is pretty strong right now. So
it's soaring.
What do you make of that? I think that's kind of interesting to watch with, euro and the yen and other currencies are essentially like just getting destroyed, and the dollar is just skyrocketing.
Well, and that's probably why they're going to end up having the print, because no one wants their currency super strong against everyone else's. And I was reading up on that recently, like the euro and what was the other major currency? Drawing a blank, but anyway, there was another one where basically they have no problems weakening their currency against the US dollar, and they're going to continue to play that card. And at some point, the US is going to get fed up and be like, no, that's what we do. So I think it's going to go back to the, race to the bottom, so to speak. But I don't know. We might have a digital currency next year. Did you see the clip? Someone was posting a clip from Powell from the last meeting. I forget what they're calling it, like the Fed something program, but I forget what it was called. The Fed. I don't know. I actually have it on a real clip, but I'm not going to play that. But yeah, basically from what it sounds like is there could be a
Fed coin,
CBDC as early as next year.
Yeah. I mean, I think they'll start. I would believe that. I would believe that they would put something in testing. Obviously, I don't think, in the hands of, regular citizens, I don't think we're going to have that for several more years.
Oh, no, the pilot program
is going to happen at some point, though.
Yeah, pilot program is going to run for probably years.
Yeah. So, but I mean, and people have asked me about this, like in real life, people bring it up and say, do you think the government's going to release a cryptocurrency? And yeah, I mean, obviously, I think they're going to release a digital, a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, for anyone that doesn't know. But I think 100% they're going to do it. It's more of a matter of when than if. But what's kind of interesting is that we already live in a digital economy. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and I'd say probably 8 out of 10 people don't carry any cash with them. anymore. They just carry credit cards and debit cards. So we already have a digital economy. Now it's more just about, you know, what is the base asset of that currency that we're all transacting with. Right now, obviously, it's, you know, this kind of old system that was put into place hundreds of years ago. You know, the question is, when does that just flip and we stop using this archaic system and start using, you know, cryptographically, you know, secured money. And obviously it's not the same as a cryptocurrency in the sense of, you know, what we're all used to with Bitcoin and you know, decentralized currencies, but it is on the order of, you know, using the technology in a similar way. And I think it's bullish, you know, for the world. I think it's bullish for the world to have something like that. And there's definitely pros and cons though, but you know, it
100%.
it allows the government to spy on you much more easily. Just imagine if you were suspected of any sort of, you know, things that the government deems malicious, they could freeze all your accounts and make sure that you can't transfer any money, can't receive any money, a lot easier than currently is today. So obviously the pros are
penny.
Right, tracking you in everything you do. You better believe that the government will be tracking every little thing that you do. But they really can now. I mean, most people are digital already. Most people don't use cash anymore, but you know, and that is like the funniest part about crypto is that people have always talked about how crypto is only used by drug dealers and for illegal activities. And the hilarious thing is that actually it's cash. I mean, cash is king if you're a criminal. That's just, there's no denying it. So yeah, and Nifty saying use Monero, rise above. Yeah, I mean, these privacy coins and coin spinners are going to become extremely popular. Extremely popular. People are going to
they'll have their market.
Yeah,
they're going to have their audience for sure.
That use case is useful right now, but not nearly as useful as it's going to be when CBDCs are widespread. People are going to use those coin meshing systems to hide their activities, and you know, that's the one thing you can always count on, is that people will always find a loophole. So right now people use cash for illegal activities, but when that's no longer viable, people will find things like Monero and coin spinners, and they'll essentially, what you essentially do is just deposit crypto or deposit a CBDC into it, and then it spins it out and do a bunch of different transactions that you can't trace, and then it'll give you a privacy coin into a different wallet, and nobody can really track how that works. So that stuff, some people already use all that stuff, but it's the usefulness of it will definitely rise when cash is no longer around.
Yeah, something like that's the thing. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So, you know, when we're living in an all digital world, you're gonna have all these same facets. It's just what's gonna play the role. So like, yeah, something like Monero going to play the role of cash, so to speak, in terms of, you know, doing things under the radar, or as I say, under the table, right? You know, like I get paid under the table. That means you're getting pretty much handed cash money.
Cash money.
You know, and you're not going to have like, and that's the thing with a central, you know, central bank currency. Like there's no more of these like, you know, with Venmo and whatnot, like the $600 threshold, you know, like anything less than that isn't like really like reportable or whatever. Not anymore. You can transfer 1 cent and it can be tracked because it's there. It's easy. It's all, there's no reporting issue, so to speak. Pros and cons to everything.
Yep.
Definitely more efficient, but what makes it more efficient is also what makes it easily traceable and trackable.
100%.
So anyway, the one soon recap post is up and in the chat.
Sweet.
At this point, we're just talking crypto, so that's not anything I have to put in there.
Yep.
So like, share, and subscribe to the cat.
Go upvote the cat.
Yes. Give some love. But yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the week with this Ethereum pump.
Yeah, you know, Let's see if it holds. See if it holds. I'm gonna, I'm gonna track what happens. I think it's gonna be interesting. Morty asked this question before, and I think we missed it. About TVL, I remember seeing that 12 million on CUB DeFi and a lot more than the actual 2.6 million on PolyCUB. Right now, there's about 3.9 million together. Where did it all go? Well, the crypto market, that was at the peak of the crypto market when Bitcoin was, I don't know, 60, 70K. So, I think token for token, it's probably almost the same. It's really just the crypto market got cut in a quarter. That's what happens.
Apparently ETH gas prices are insanely low right now. Can't
Just in
remember the last
case
time I
don't
did a
feel
transaction on the
interesting.
Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah, I don't do much on Ethereum these days, but I do some.
That's the only hole in my portfolio is I barely own any Ethereum. I probably have like, I don't even know. I have some staked in the WEEF beef. WEEF be WBTC pool, but I don't think it's a lot. I got another one tied up in NFTs, which who knows how much that's worth now. And
NFT
then,
market's been interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I was planning to buy some ETH on the dip, and I just never got to it. I did buy more. I don't know if I did that before last call. Maybe I did. I think I had. I think it was last week. I bought some Rune and I bought some Atom. So those are the only other coins I added outside of Bitcoin. I did flip some Leo into PolyCUB at 16 cents. So that's paying off.
Nice.
And the reason I did that is because I wanted more X Poly, because like I was like, crap. I was like, I'm about to lock up how much of my X Poly. I'm like, I need more. So I flipped some Leo, liquid Leo into Poly, and then X Poly'd it up. That was the first time I added to X Poly in months. I had gotten to my stack that I wanted and just chilled.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
I think people are underestimating what the impact of this Vex PolyCUB system with governance is going to be. It's that monthly permanent buyer of, now it's going to be over $6,000 per month. Buying PolyCUB is going to be, it's going to have a bigger impact than I think most people realize.
if only I had as much X Poly as I have CUB, Cat would be rich.
Well, you'll get the opportunity with Beehive and BHBD soon.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh yeah, obviously, when I have Hive come free from my power down, I've been pushing it into the P-Hive pool against my PolyCUB that is becoming unlocked each day. But soon as Beehive is a thing, all Cat's Hive is going to the Beehive. Hey, when did Wu show up?
She snuck in here.
Snuck in. The entertainment factor was just a notch lower without Wu in chat. I need someone else making bad jokes and bad puns besides me. That's what I'm here for. We bring Neil around for the smart questions. I just ask the basic stuff.
Surprised nobody's asked when Neil.
Right? Everyone loves some Neil. Who doesn't love a mixed spreadsheet? I think it's soon. I think it's in the Sooniverse.
In the Sooniverse. Yeah, Neil lives in the Sooniverse too. So Nifty asked if Neil is even real. We don't know. He's somewhere floating out there in the Sooniverse.
He's not. He's a mixed spreadsheet. An autonomous mixed spreadsheet.
He's a Mick illusion.
Nickelodeon. That's too funny. But yeah, looks like the questions are drying up.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, a
Might be
lot
a
got
good
done.
place. Yeah, good
Big,
place to
big, big
jump
week.
out.
Big week for the
Yeah.
Leo finance team.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that. You know, here's my closing statement. Keep an eye out for that post. It should be up in a few hours. It'll talk
Which
about
post?
pretty much everything we talked about this week in Leo.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
gonna
yeah.
start doing them before each AMA. I tried to get it done before this AMA, but I didn't have time.
So basically what you're saying is my recap post has just become negated and useless.
No, it's
Damn it, that's my
no.
only post that gets a lot of votes.
No, the recap post definitely covers more than the this week in Leo. That's for sure.
No, I think that weekly post is money.
Yeah, I think it'll help just keep everything a little bit more focused, especially with how many devs we've got now. There are just so many different things happening all at once. I think the community sometimes doesn't see, all the different things that are going on behind the scenes. So, yeah, the weekly post will kind of just give a quick recap of everything we've done over the past 7 days, which is usually a lot.
Love it. No, it's good. I think it also helps temper the wins.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and then I don't have to keep asking every week when it comes to CUB.
When my answer will always be soon.
When Beehive, when V2 CUB.
Actually, very soon. Very, very,
When
very
X,
soon.
when X CUB. That's going to be that's going to be the interesting one for me. X CUB. What does Cat do when X CUB is a thing? I got to think load up. I mean, especially if that ratio is going to move anything like PolyCUB did.
We'll have to see.
I guess it depends on the dynamics. I think the dynamics might be a little bit different just because of the way the mechanics are, the difference in the mechanics between the two. But
yeah, with the new CUB update, you're going to see a lot of CUB get burned. That's for sure.
Nice.
A lot of CUB.
But yeah, so I mean, if there's going to be X CUB at some point, I'm assuming that means there's going to be a lockup period instituted. Because if not, then how does X CUB grow? Because the penalty fees is one of the big mechanics.
Yeah, CUB is not going to work exactly the same way. So it'll be
figure that much. Yeah, so as I'm saying,
yeah,
there'll be decisions to be made. I'll have to read up on what the mechanics are and the game plan is and decide if it's the play.
Yeah, you'll have to see how that plays out. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, you can't just.
That's all I can promise is that it'll be interesting.
Yeah, you can't just people can't just leverage what happened with PolyCUB because it's going to be different.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying a little bit ago is on this, at the beginning of this call is that, it's cool to think about the PolyCUB and CUB systems side by side because, PolyCUB uses that multi-token bridge revenue and protocol and liquidity to earn revenue every month, buy back PolyCUB and then give it to VEX PolyCUB holders. So it's that buyback redistribute model. And then CUB obviously has the buy and burn model. So you're going to see kind of those two models side by side. And, the performance of one doesn't necessarily equal the performance of the other one. It's going to be, it's kind of a cool live experiment to see, which one outperforms the other. And a lot of it's going to come down to revenue. I mean, that's where we've gotten in DeFi, as a whole, but especially with us, with PolyCUB and CUB, is that everything's focused on value accrual and real world utility because old DeFi 1.0 was all about just getting inflation, paying it to LPs. DeFi 2.0 and what we're working on right now is generate real utility that people want to like a product that people actually want to use that generates revenue, then use that revenue to support the token, use the token to build more revenue by supporting LPs and supporting, VEX PolyCUB and the burning of CUB. So it's all centered around this idea of generating massive revenue by having an exchange, having a multi-token bridge, using that revenue to support that ecosystem and grow it. So we're seeing it play out with PolyCUB, and I'm happy with how it's playing out so far. Since we've launched the multi-token bridge, things have been going very well for PolyCUB. Before we launched it, obviously things weren't going as well. So it's cool to see.
Good stuff. That was a solid win to end on.
Yep. So next week is July 26th, Tuesday, obviously. So we'll see everybody at noonish next week.
Possibly earlier.
Possibly earlier.
Today's delay was on me. Usually
Nah,
it's Cal. It was on me this time.
We were noonish today. I liked it.
Yeah, we got started at like noon.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I'll be around next week. And then we'll see if Neil's back at the beginning of August, because I will
kids go
be
back to school.
I don't know. No, not that soon. I think that's like more mid-late August, but I'll be MIA unless we move it to later in the week.
Yeah, we can sort it out. Maybe we'll do a spontaneous AMA makeup session.
Yeah,
We'll
so
figure it
I'll
out.
be in the Northeast handling some real estate stuff. But yeah, we'll get it done next week. And we shall see where crypto prices are.
Let's see it. It's one moon.
Yeah, for real.
All right.
All right,
we'll
everyone.
catch you- Yep. We'll catch you next week.
Indeed.
All right. See you later.
All right, be good, man.
See ya.